On August 2nd, 2025, European Union's Data Protection Board didn't just drop a ruling, it detonated a bomb in the middle of the global tech industry. The target? TikTok? The offense. Alleged mass mishandling of user data, especially that of minors. The price tag? Record-breaking €317 million, about $345 million. The largest fine TikTok has ever faced in Europe, in the EU's own words. TikTok's handling of personal data was deliberately opaque and structurally negligent, a damning indictment against one of the most downloaded apps on the planet. And at the center of it all were two explosive allegations. First, the TikTok failed to adequately inform users under 18 about exactly how their data was being collected, stored, and used. Second, that its family pairing feature, supposedly a parental safeguard, allowed linked accounts to directly message minors without proper guardrails, creating a loophole ripe for abuse. For parents, privacy advocates, and regulators, this was gasoline on an already smoldering fire. TikTok's official response? Defiance. In a polished newsroom statement, the company insisted it had already addressed many of the concerns and touted new privacy prompts for younger users. But the EU's 120-page ruling told a much darker story, one where TikTok's fixes came only after repeated warnings, and sometimes only after the damage had already been splashed across headlines. Then came the first twist, less than 48 hours. After the fine was announced, Politico published leaked notes from internal meetings at TikTok's Brussels lobbying office. Those notes revealed that TikTok had privately urged EU officials to delay enforcement action until after the bloc's upcoming Digital Markets Act review. Why? To avoid overlapping reputational hits, regulators speak for two scandals. At the same time, the leak painted TikTok not as a humbled company eager to comply, but as a brand carefully playing a game of headline management. The backlash was swift. Hashtags like #TikTokGate and #DataBreachTok began trending across Europe, but if users thought they could freely discuss the scandal on TikTok itself, they were in for a surprise. On August 4th, The Guardian dropped a bombshell of its own whistleblower. Documents showing that TikTok's moderation algorithms in certain European CRES markets had been trained to automatically suppress posts containing words like GDPR, fine, or data breach in captions. TikTok claimed it was an overly cautious keyword filter to block misinformation, but to critics, it looked like outright censorship. A platform under fire, quietly burying the story about itself. The outrage was just getting started. On August 5th, a consortium of digital rights groups filed a collective lawsuit in Ireland, where TikTok's European headquarters sits. Their claim that TikTok not only mishandled minors' data, but profited from behavioral profiling, tracking, analyzing, and monetizing underage user behavior, something explicitly forbidden under GDPR, without parental consent. If the lawsuit succeeds, it could trigger hundreds of millions more in penalties. And more dangerously for TikTok, force the company to dismantle core elements of its ad targeting model in Europe, for Brussels regulators. This case isn't just about TikTok, it's about credibility. For years, critics have accused the EU of handing down fines that tech giants simply write off as the cost of doing business. But this time, there's a twist that could change the game. If TikTok fails to implement mandated changes within 6 months, it will face a daily penalty of €1.5 million until compliance is verified. That's not a one-and-done slap on the wrist. That's a financial bleed, a slow, daily reminder that Europe isn't backing down. And that's where the stakes get higher. TikTok boasts roughly 150 million monthly active users in Europe, a massive audience but one dominated by teens. And young adults, the demographic most sensitive to privacy scandals. Digital marketing analysts estimate that even a 5% drop in engagement could cost TikTok tens of millions in annual ad revenue. And if advertisers start to see TikTok as toxic in the EU market, the damage could spread far beyond a single continent. But not everyone believes this is purely about privacy. Mark Lacey, a London-based tech policy consultant, told reporters Meta, Snap, and YouTube have all faced similar issues with minors' data. The difference here is political heat. TikTok's Chinese ownership amplifies every problem. And in the background, the US has been pushing its allies to adopt tougher stances on Chinese tech firms, framing them as potential national security risks. To some analysts, this fine isn't just a regulatory crackdown. It's a move-in, a larger geopolitical chess game. Still, politics aside, the compliance challenge for TikTok is enormous. GDPR doesn't just require companies to protect data. It demands proof of that protection in a way that's accessible and transparent to users. For a platform as algorithm-driven and data-hungry as TikTok, that could mean dismantling or re-engineering parts of the very system that makes it so addictive. Less personalized recommendations, reduced behavioral profiling, fewer hyper-targeted ads. In other words, less profit. And just when it seemed like the worst was over, the biggest twist of all emerged. On August 8th, Bloomberg reported that ByteDance, TikTok's Beijing-based parent company, had quietly begun exploring the possibility of spinning off its European operations into a semi-independent company headquartered in Dublin. The potential goal? To shield the rest of the global business from EU scrutiny while building a compliance-friendly TikTok tailored for Europe. On paper, it could solve some regulatory headaches. In reality, it would be a public admission that the EU has become too hostile for TikTok's current business model. For now, TikTok is appealing the €317 million fine, calling it disproportionate and unnecessary. But the clock is ticking. 6 months to comply? A collective lawsuit looming, daily penalties waiting, and public trust, especially among parents, hanging in the balance. The battle isn't just about money anymore. It's about whether TikTok can prove to regulators, lawmakers, and its own users that it deserves a place on their devices. If it fails, Europe could become the first major market to push the app into a forced transformation or even exile. So here's the real question. Is this fine the start of genuine accountability for big tech? Or is it just another move in? A digital Cold War with TikTok caught between political powers fighting for control of the world's data. Whatever the answer, one thing is certain, this fight is far from over. The stakes are bigger than one app, one fine, or one market. This is about the future of how our personal data is treated, who controls it, and whether we, as users, will ever truly own it. And in that fight, TikTok's $345 million fine might just be the opening shot. If you want the full story behind big tech's biggest scandals, the hidden deals, the political pressure, the backroom strategies they hope you'll never see, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and turn on notifications. Because the next chapter in this war over your data, it's already being written. And when it breaks, you'll want to be here first.